yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself and let us know when you became a certified coach through Master Force and how that goes.
Absolutely. Hello and welcome, everyone. Good evening. Good evening. We're so happy to be here. As my husband said, my name is Sandra Jones Manson, and we are both coming to you from Fairfax, Virginia. Yes, the backgrounds are different, but we're actually in the same space in this moment of time. For me, I am a Master Force Life Coach, received my certification alongside with my husband in 2015. In my daytime job, I work for the federal government, but I am not here in that capacity in this moment. And what about you, Orion? What do you do in life?
I try to do as least as possible, but I currently work for as a contractor for VDH as a data management and quality assurance tech. And I have, as you said, been a life coach since 2015. And the reason why I became a life coach, it wasn't to get into coaching, it was to heal myself. So when I met Moo at a gathering, we instantly linked and connect, and I found this coaching curriculum just to be fundamental. It was excellent. It was everything I needed. I was at the time, as you know, I had just got recently divorced and lost everything from four properties to houses and cars and all the rest of that. And I was in a space where I needed to find myself, and I had just left Christianity, and so the spiritual side of it all was great for me, and it was right up my alley, and it helped me in ways to try to put my life back, well, not try, but to put my life back together from an authentic space. And it has really helped me learn and grow as a man, as a spiritual person, as a coach, as a mentor. And I am always using these techniques and tools that I learned at Master Force. But what about you? What was your cause for becoming a
Yeah,
coach?
I met Moot at the same party, as you know,
Yes,
because we were there
yes,
together.
yes.
And initially, when I made the decision after meeting with Moot and having an informational meeting with her about becoming a life coach, it was because I was interested in coaching and wanted to maybe take a career pivot and figure out how I could do that. However, after going through the program, I ended up staying. I work in education. I continue to work with youth and young adults, but I found what I learned, the curriculum was so helpful for me going through that process. I was very eager to apply what I was learning to support the students and the families that I was working with. So I chose to incorporate everything that I had learned as a coach into what I call my regular 9 to 5, and I've been doing it ever since and continuing to learn and grow. But like becoming a life coach changed my life because it helped me reclaim my life. It helped me reconnect back to myself.
Absolutely.
So, and that's the first step before you can help anyone. You have to be able to help yourself. But I think that's enough about us because we're not here to just sit and be talking heads to you today. We have an amazing guest that we're
Yeah.
going to bring on, Miss Teresa Lugo. Did I say it right?
Yes, you did.
A
Yes, I
beautiful Teresa.
welcome, welcome to the stage, Teresa. We're so excited to hear from you today on this topic of affirming love in your family setting. But before we get into the meat of this, why don't you tell us where you're coming to us from and what you do in life?
Well, I am in beautiful, sunny Puerto Rico.
Yes.
Except right now we're going through some major thunderstorms and rain. So if there's any interruption, just keep moving. Like, it's nature and nothing that we can control. We've learned that through coaching, right? But I've been a certified life coach for the last, since 2012. When I had the pleasure of meeting Moot, and you know how she does, she kidnaps those that she feels need the curriculum because not that we need it, but that we are actually leaders in our lives, and she knows that that would empower us. So I think that the curriculum really took me to a whole nother level. At that time, I was going through a really dark time. My father had just died. I was in a really dark place. I really saw that as a loss more than what she taught was more about you can still connect to your father. I mean, she just brought some light into the darkness. And then from there, in 2020, through the pandemic, I decided to um, recertify in the course because I felt there was other things that I needed to learn, especially dealing with people and coaching them into their greatness. I felt there were some things that I absolutely wanted to learn and take under my wing and use in my tools. So, what I'm doing now, I have a nonprofit here in Puerto Rico called Land and Heart Project, where we assist the farmers after tragedies and hurricanes happen, and we raise money to get them their trees, and we get people to come and donate their time to physically help them to recoup the farms. Um, I'm still doing coaching. I coach parents, teens. I also coach women into their greatness. My background is fine. Well, my background is public relations, marketing, as well as boutique owner. So I'm a fashion queen. So I also do that on the side. I still do women's closets. I can't help it. I love fashion. That's never going to part from me. But one thing I found was the two were actually connected to the other because your in your physical closet is actually your internal closet. Because if you can't let go of five closet full of clothes, and that is a situation in
You better,
itself. So it's called release.
you better stop talking about me. That
Uh-uh.
ain't that.
Is that you or her?
I think that's probably both of us. I seen our tribe.
Yes, I used to be that way. I get it.
So, a finance coach, what made you get into the business and the finance area of coaching?
Well, I mean, through experience, really, as a business owner, I remember my brother always telling me, even if you have a business, don't count on it. Use the money, buy real estate, invest in a portfolio, spread it out. Because a business is just that. It's a tool that may not be here tomorrow, but if you use it properly while you have it, it can actually grow your money and then you don't have to count on it. So that was part of it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for sharing that. I was just curious. I'm glad to hear that you went back and got certified twice. I was like, okay, all right, that's good stuff. Most people would not do that, but you felt the need to do it. And I think that's excellent. You
Yeah,
accomplished that.
I do too.
So, yeah, let's get into tonight's discussion, affirming love for family. Now, from what I hear, you got a pretty big family like myself. I had a big family of nine of us, nine brothers and sisters. So, why don't you give us a little bit of background and set the stage of what your family life looked like?
Sure. So I come from a family of 12.
Mhm.
I'm number 11.
Oh,
Ooh.
Yes. And my mom and dad had 8 boys and 4 girls. One is deceased. We lost one in 74. Nope, 78. And yeah, I mean, I mean, we're still very tight, a family dynamic, and it's something that my father, I would say, was very pivotal in that, where he taught us that family's like a hand, every finger is different, but if you make that fist, it's very powerful. And I
Mhm.
remember that because we all have our differences, and I know that there have been moments that we all kind of reflect about what he taught us. And that gives us the strength at times where we just want to choke each other to remember that, that we all are different and to give each other grace, you
mm,
know, but we
I'm
all play that role.
I'm still learning that. So hopefully you'll give us some insights on how to do that tonight because I was just with my sisters and brothers this weekend. We had a good time, but some of that always crept up.
Yes,
And
yes.
with that being said, how did you guys get along and was everybody together in the same household? Because that's how it was in my house. We were pretty much together. And how did that go? What did life look like for you guys? How was your
Well,
relationships?
I remember being the youngest. So for me, I remember perhaps maybe 9 of them living in the same household. Um, we, by the time I came, I would say my brothers and sisters raised me because mom was like, okay, here comes another one. You guys know what to do with this one, you know?
Yeah.
So I learned a lot from them. I also didn't learn the Spanish that they learned because my again my mom spoke Spanish in the house. That was her strict dialogue. However, my sisters and brother was one that was basically raising me, so I didn't really learn the Spanish as I wish I had. But it's like my parents were. My dad, he wasn't a doctor. He wasn't a lawyer. He worked for a factory, and his belief was God first, and family second. And he kept us in church, and the church would give us all kinds of toys and stuff. And he counted on the Catholic Church to help him raise his kids, basically, I would say. And then he put some great lessons in each of us, the importance of work. Even at 8 and 9 years old, he would build my brothers a shoebox, so they would go out and at that young age and shine people's shoes and took whatever money they had and came home with it. Um, those days, man, we made things work. There was no rules about you're too young to work, or you're not able to because if you get caught, then they'll lock up your parents. I mean, there was none of that. It was just family unity. Everything, every dollar we made. Even I started working at 13 at the YMCA. And I remember my mom taking my check every time I got paid, and she'd give me maybe $50 if I needed clothes or what I needed. But there was no gray areas when it came to my family. It was about, you work, I get the check, I give you whatever, and you're happy. But this family has to work. So my dad really did an amazing job making sure that we all pitched in to help him grow, because after that he bought another house. We have a house in Puerto Rico now because of him. I don't know how he did it, but I remember asking him, like, how did you do it? Because I thought I need to invest in certain stocks or do something. And he told me that as long as he did God's work and he helped people, then God made it his business to make our family his business.
That is beautiful. That is really beautiful. It sounds like, yeah, you already told us the storm is a coming, right?
Yeah.
So that's okay. We're gonna
There
keep
it is.
on moving through.
That's my
Uh,
dad right there, Doug. Thank you, Dad. Thank you,
Yeah.
Dad.
he's affirming. He's affirming.
Oh yeah, he's
That's
letting me know.
beautiful. It sounds like your in your childhood setting in your family time was really rooted and grounded in some solid, very clear values
Yes.
and priorities that were transferred from your parents and down to you. It sounds like to your other siblings as well. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the experiences that you had maybe within your family that were you were raised by your sisters and brothers? So I'm curious, like, did you experience any type of bullying while growing up, being the baby for a while, not being able to speak the Spanish that everyone else was speaking in the home? Did you experience any bullying in that regard?
Bullying is inevitable when you have a big family. That
Yes.
is inevitable, girl. I mean, I remember so many things being a young one. Even I remember being young and going upstairs, and my brothers used to say, Martin Luther King's gonna get you. He had just died, girl. I remember running down those stairs like, ah! I mean, just dumb stuff. They just made your life pure hell. I mean, being the younger ones, it's definitely caused a lot of stuff. I mean, really, when you're the youngest, you take the brunt of it and you deal with it. But it also kind of affects you as you get older, because you feel like you're on the defense, or you feel like you're not going to let anybody try anything with you, because you're going to be like, yo, I got you. You are not coming here this way, you know. So there's that, right? It's like a form of relational aggressiveness that we go through. And then we got to go through the tug of war, and now the manipulation and the humiliation and all that stuff that comes with it. Um, and you really learn as you get older. I remember even younger, I was in my 20s, and I remember somebody would touch my feet, and I would get aggressive about that. I don't know why. I didn't want nobody touching my feet. It was the craziest thing. And even now, I was like, don't touch my feet. We're good. You know? So I'm telling you, it still has this resin in me, you know, and it's always something that um, you can't help if you've been raised that way, right? That's the roots. Those are our roots and how we were raised, you
Yeah.
know.
And
Just
you were second from the last. So do you feel that that aggression that you learned to react with was more a symptom of being in the middle or being one of the littles?
I think being one of the youngest, because even now we range from the age of, I think my brother's 77, and well, my younger brother is 58. So, you know, the older ones, there's like three of them, they're very close. And we just learned that most recently in one of our family arguments that I had to really bring it to my sister's attention. Like, look, this is what I see, and it has to be addressed. You know, I'm not a baby anymore. I have something to say. I have
Mm.
an issue that I'm bringing to the table, and you're telling me to be quiet. Don't you know? Pretend this didn't happen. You know, respect your brother. Just be okay with it. No, that's not okay, right? It's still. I'm not that 8-year-old or 7-year-old, and so that still has yet to be ironed out. And I'm sure in every family we still go through it. Um, People look at you, your sisters and your brothers look at you, the age they've always seen you as.
Mm.
And that is the hardest thing to work through, you know. And it takes someone like myself who made the decision to take a stand for my family, um, and to really just share from my heart what I see and what I know to be true. And, you know, that's where what is what did I say it was? Marshall Rosenberg called it the nonviolent communication,
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
right? The nonviolent communication. And I'm so grateful that we were taught that in our class, because a lot of families speak to each other that way. But
Yes.
it has a lot to do with how our mothers spoke to us and our fathers, right? So that nonviolent communication, and what did he say? It's like you're the jackal or you're the giraffe, where the giraffe is kind and open-hearted and able to receive the conversation, where the jackal is the manipulator, the conniver, you know, the one that twists things around, you know. And I remember hearing his talk on nonviolent communication, and I said, wow, I wish I knew this years ago. I wish, even as a mom, because I was like that with my children. I was like, let's go. It's time for school. You got your books, you got your, or, you know, did you do your homework? Did you? And everything that came out of my mouth, I would say, was not very nice. Why? Because I was a single parent, because I wanted to run the household right. I wanted everybody to work with me. I also had two stores. I was, you know, providing for my children. But after I learned about, you know, the nonviolent communication and the importance of it, because it creates bullies, right?
Hmm.
And bullies bully others. So if you're being a bully to your children, then your kids are in school bullying other kids. That's just the way it is. That's how they learn how to talk. But I had to actually go back to my children, both of them, and apologize to them. to
Yeah.
let them know that that was wrong on my part. I didn't mean it, not in that way. I didn't know better, but when I was taught, then I knew better. And then
Mm.
I was able to go back to my children and apologize for that, because I didn't mean that. That's not what I meant. But, it's part of all of us growing in ways that we turn to love, the love language of love. Like everybody wants to be loved at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Um,
I grew up in a very similar household. I'm telling you, it sounds like you're talking about my household. We were all aggressive, and dealt with each other in violence and aggression, especially nonverbal violence communication. How have you been able to, and what ways do you now deal with your children and your siblings in a non-violent communicative way? What are some of the tools that you use to help you recognize what's going on and not deal with them in that way and deal with them in a loving way?
well, one thing that I've learned that really helped me a lot was to first listen. And let me tell you, I could be boiling inside. I even do it with adults now. I mean, there are times when I just want to like shut it down. Like, no, that's not what it is. Even though I know that's not what it is, it's just giving that person the respect that they deserve. Um, and they could be talking about something that's not even true.
Mhm.
It could be like, wow, okay. But everyone deserves that. And I think that we all got a chance to be that through the pandemic and through the Trump thing and everything else, and how everybody's like, oh, you need to get that shot, or I can't believe you voted for him. He's such a da da da, but to do. It's like people did not allow each other to speak. Like, I have every right not to get that shot. You understand? This is my body. But everybody had a thing to say. And so I basically shut down at that time. I didn't share with anyone. Yeah, I did with my family, that I wasn't going to get that shot. No one's going to put anything in my body unless I say so. And yeah, it was, well, if you die, well, stuff like that. And it's like, okay, I'm cool with that. Thank you very much. Um, but I found that time, it was a time of reflection for me because I said, why can't we all just get along? Who said that everything has to be the way you say it has to be? And it goes back to when we were in school and those teachers telling us how we needed to think, how we needed to be, how we needed to sit, how we needed to act. And here we are as adults and we're still little kids inside.
Mhm.
Um, so having a big family, is just to really accept our differences. And also, I learned how some of us in our families are the empaths. Some of us are the bullies,
Yeah.
you know?
Mhm.
Some of us are the aggressors. Some of us are the babies, very sensitive. And that's to be respected. So I've learned to just be quiet
Hmm.
and listen to someone else's opinion. My daughter, she has three beautiful children, and there are things that she does as a mom that are beautiful, and I'm so proud. I mean, the mom that she has turned out to be has blown my mind. And there were times when I just like wanted to just say, "No, that's not how you do that." Oh my God. But I learned to be quiet,
Hmm.
to respect it. Really respect that space.
I don't want to gloss over kind of what you've shared so far because here you're explaining how you had to learn how to listen, right? And you had to learn how to be quiet. But you also shared earlier that there's also a there are also times or a part in your life where you had to work on reclaiming your voice, like being the little in the family, having your family members maybe impose their perspective of you on you in situations now as an adult,
Mhm.
and being able to find a space where you can speak up and say,
Yes.
oh, this is what I observe, this is what I see, and the balance, being able to know, when do I use the voice that I have now reclaimed, that I now, am empowered with, and when am I silent? And in doing that, also being able to understand your family, or I should say overstand your family. So I'm curious, has mirror work played a role in that dynamic, coming from the second to youngest of 12, who was pretty much, guided by your older siblings, and they still see you as little Teresa,
Yeah.
right? To now you're this fully realized woman who has a voice, and not only has a voice but has a discernment of when to use it, and when to be quiet. How has mirror work supported you in finding that balance within yourself, but also having some empathy and understanding of your family?
Well, that's a good question. Um, so as one gets older and reaches for tools to understand oneself more and more, I have learned that whatever I see in front of me is what I'm portraying still to others.
Mhm.
So if my sister is still treating me like a little girl, then I must be that little girl somewhere in this conversation, somewhere in this acting, and somewhere in this interacting. I am being that, you know? And I think that the mirror work reflects back to us who we really are in these relationships. Um, I'm not saying that if somebody physically hurts you that you deserve it. I'm not saying that at all, right? That's totally not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is that if there are certain um, things that are coming up in family dynamics, and you're not being respected, and your sister's talking down to you, and you're not getting your way or even being heard, is because you're not communicating the way you should. And when you realize that and you say, I don't believe that anymore about myself. I don't believe that anymore about myself. So, what can I do? What tools can I use? What tools can I grab that's going to allow me to, you know, be able to talk to that person a certain way, let them know that I do respect them. This is not the sister, big sister tug of war. This is me asking for some grace to be heard, you know. Um, and I think that that's why we do the work that we do. For me, I spent a lot of money. I never went to college, but I've spent a lot of money on self development, and it's not cheap. I probably paid more than an average college person, but I needed to, because coming from a big family and being number 11, I was beat up a lot. And then I became a parent. So I had to be responsible for my actions, for my words, because I had two human beings that were looking at me for direction, you know? And so I think the mirror work is something that's very important in our lives, that how people are treating us is because somewhere inside of us, we need to heal that. We need to heal that, whatever that is. And for me, the little sister syndrome has definitely been huge, huge. And I still have those triggers. They don't go away. You just learn how to deal with them.
Right.
You know?
So, with that being said, and dealing with the setting that you were in and having to deal with being the little sister and all the rest of that, did you find yourself when you were younger always expecting something from your family members? And what was the dynamics that influenced that?
Um, What's interesting is that I was that little doll
Mhm.
that they played with and they put aside a lot. Um, I wasn't even told about turning into a woman. I didn't even know what that was when I got my period. I didn't even know what that was. I didn't know what sex was. I ended up getting pregnant at a very young age because someone said I loved you, and I believed him, and I thought it was beautiful. But I didn't have that growing up. So as big as my family was, I was pretty much ignored, you know. Um, and that was fine because I was an indigo child. I was a leader already at a very young age. I thought I was like the best singer. I used to sing. I thought I was everything. My mom was she was very my mother was not the nicest woman. She was mean because she did not like that I was a free spirit. She did not like that I wanted to be with the boys and hang out. I was a tomboy. I loved being with my brother's friends and we'd play, we had all kinds of great things going on, but she would beat me a lot. And so I would get dressed up for her to beat me. In other words, I knew she was going to beat me. So I go over and put on about 3 pair of pants, 5 shirts, get ready.
Yes, yes.
But it didn't stop me from having fun. And, so as far as expecting from my siblings, I will say that it happened most recently at a very older age where I went through a really dark time. My father passed. I went through a really huge depression and I went probably 8 years of my life without really seeing them. I was in a very dark place and, none of them really called me to find out what's wrong. You're losing your businesses, your home, nothing. It was the weirdest thing. But I just started writing and dealing with my circumstance because I knew that God was working something through me. I just knew it. And I ended up writing a book called Homeless Mind, so there was a reason why I went through that. But I remember that after I wrote the book and the book was published and I had them read it, some of them did read it, I was really surprised that none of them came up to me about my life in that time to say, I'm sorry you went through that. I didn't know. Why didn't you tell me? Are you okay today? What was that like? It's the weirdest thing so I expected something from them that I still didn't get. So I realized that maybe we put too many expectations on our family and maybe they're just here to grow us up and to not be so judgmental.
What would you say to someone who might listen to this and might be struggling with some unmet expectations?
I would say, first of all, meditate on that. And if you've never meditated, just take a minute, daily. Just take a minute and breathe into that space. Like, what is it? What is it that you want? What is it that you expect from that person? And then what you'll find sometimes is something has nothing to do with that person. It might be something that happened when you were 3 years old and they left you in this closet and you still waiting for them to come get you out. You know what I'm saying? It could be the silliest thing, But I think that we have, and that's why it's important to meditate, because if you meditate and you tap into that, which is the God within, you can figure out what is it that, how do you really see this person? How do you really see this situation? Are you really there for yourself today? Where are you falling short of being there for yourself? So yeah, and because if not, you'll take that expectation and bring it into your relationship, your male-female relationship, or your female-female relationship, and it's unfair, right? It's unfair to put that on top, on someone like that. So I would definitely say meditation is something that I learned through Master Force, and I'm so grateful. And I heard you say that you were a Christian at one time, and I was raised in the Catholic Church, and I was never heard of meditation.
Yeah.
And then I became Christian, and then I heard meditate on His Word day and night. So, but I never learned how to meditate. And so after learning how to meditate, and which I'm so grateful, really, honestly. It's just 5 minutes of your time going deep into your belly, breathing,
Yes.
and allowing whatever that's there to come up. Whatever that's there to come up, just let it be. Let it come up. Because we store a lot of hurt and pain in our bodies. You
Yes.
know, I still get like big belly. When that big belly starts coming up, I'm like, okay, what am I not releasing? What am I holding on to? Because I work out every day, so I don't understand this belly sometimes. But I'm like, okay, what am I what am I holding on to now? You know, so we're always tapping in. So yeah, I think meditation is number one, and journaling.
Mm.
Write out your feelings. Write out your feelings, because if we don't tap into those pain bodies, which is Eckhart Tolle wrote a book called The New Earth, very,
Hmm.
very good book, talks about that, called the pain bodies. These are things that we hold on to. And what happens is when we get into relationships and someone triggers that, we go into full blown nastiness, the jackal personality that Rosenberg spoke about. Oh, no, you didn't, that kind of stuff. So all of that is important. Yeah.
I found that the only time we really get hurt is through failed expectations, right? Have you have you found a way, or have you been able to really truly be in relationship without having expectations?
Hmm. That's a hard one.
Yeah.
That's a hard one. I mean, the best I can say is being that circus, the circus leader and how he tames his animals. We got to learn how to tame our animal that's inside that expects, you know. I've seen my father be this amazing father to his kids, an amazing husband and provider. Um, so he is my measuring tape. He is my the thing that I look at times. So when I don't see it reciprocated in my relationship, then I judge it,
Mm,
because
Hmm.
that was the measuring stick that I had in those days. So it's hard. Sometimes it's hard.
And I'm not sure if not having expectations is necessarily a goal. At least it's not for me. I just feel like as long as I'm human and I have needs and wants, I'm going to experience some expectations, I think. To what you were saying, Teresa, knowing how to recognize those expectations that you're projecting onto others
Yes.
and having the tools to deal with them. I love
Listen.
the way that you explained those tools. I mean, you make it sound so simple because the tools, and we know this, the tools themselves are simple. They're easy to pick up and use. It's not the tool. This isn't rocket science we're doing here.
Exactly.
It's our willingness to use the tools, our willingness to recognize the need to use the tool, our willingness to slow down and pick up the tool, right? That's really, you just did it right here on the screen for us. You just took a few little quick breaths, and I felt it just in that brief moment. It's
Well, Jesus expected the disciples to be praying when he got back. So if Jesus expected something, who are we not to expect something? You
mm,
know,
yeah.
absolutely.
I mean, we're human. That's for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. The thing is, you guys make it seem simple, and it is
Mhm.
mentally, but emotionally, it does feel like rocket science when you're going through it, and a lot of times you do not get to the opportunity to say, unless you at where we're at, where we can work things out in real time. Sometimes you explode because that expectation comes up
Yes.
and you didn't prepare to deal with it. And so it does feel like rocket science. It is hard. And I'm a victim of it because I
Yeah.
often fly off the hat sometimes. And then I have to come back and what was this about? And then I start asking those real time questions. If I catch it soon enough, like, what really triggered you? What was this about? Why are you feeling this? Do you feel hurt in behind it? And things like that. And when you growing up in a family setting like we did, those programs run deep, and we spend our life trying to get rid of those programs. And as I'm sure, like myself and a bunch of other people, it was a lot of inner child work that needed to be done. What was your experience like with that, and how did it affect your interactions with your family afterwards?
Um, I think that right after my dad died and I had time to be away from all of them, that changed my life
Mm.
because I was under construction at that time. I wasn't even thinking of myself as a family of, I was number 11 of any family. I was so lost in my jungle
Mm.
and I was being one with God at that time. It was like I had gone away to some kind of, yoga retreat for about 8 years. I I realized during that time that God was showing me some things, some major tools that I needed for the bigger picture. And the bigger picture came later, which was the death of my mom. Because when my mom died, I was, well, a year before she died, I was in Puerto Rico because I was starting to write my book, which was what Spirit told me to do, gave me the name and everything. But I was called back home to care for my mom because she was ill. And so what I did was I came back home to take care of my mom. And while I was there, I ended up taking a course, Landmark. I don't know if you guys heard of Landmark.
Yes.
Yes.
Because I needed to, because there was so many expectations of me in that house because I was with my mom and I was caring for her, that I knew that if I didn't take something, some kind of class to empower me, then I was going to lose control. And I wanted to be there for my mom. So that was number one. And the funniest thing happened, and I wrote it in my book actually, was that when I was in this class, I ended up leaving to go to the bathroom. And when I opened the door, Mushim's suit was standing there. And I'm like, what are you doing here? And she's like, what are you doing here? I was like, oh my God. And, she's like, I've always been with this program for years. And I said, oh my God. But anyways, that was one of the most beautiful experiences I've ever had. But what that taught me, and I'm so grateful, was that when you make a decision to take a stand for something, in which they taught you in that class, what is the stand that you're taking right now? In your case, it could be your marriage right now.
Mhm.
For me, it was the stand for my family because I already knew, my spirit was telling me my mom was going to go. I knew it.
Mm.
So much so that I ended up having a conversation with one of my brothers and letting him know that my mom has been in the hospital at least 4 or 5 times and she should have left. She's not left because of you. She needs to be right. You guys need to make whatever is wrong right, I said to him. And it didn't happen. And when she ended up going down, like it was her final days, he ended up having a major heart attack.
Mm.
And thank God he made it. And I hope to God they had that time and that spirit realm to figure things out. But prior to all of that, I had the conversation with my family to say, look, I need you guys to consider sleeping over a night a week. We're 11 of us, 10 of us, 9 of us, whatever. And they were like, no, well, you don't work. You need to take care of mom. You need to do this. And I said, I've been very short with my mom because she keeps me up all night and I'm being pretty nasty with her. I'm like, go to sleep. She doesn't deserve that. I said, you guys, you don't understand. This is her last year of life. And you will always remember this time with your mom. Do you know, girl? Let me tell you something. And I'm sorry, Mr. Manson. I look at your wife and I feel like connected to her right now. And I'm
Go
sorry.
right ahead. Go right ahead. No offense.
But it happened that way. We ended up buying a cot. I put a cot in her room, and every night somebody slept with her.
Mm.
And I'm talking about 60 or 70-year-old brothers slept every night. So all of us covered a night,
Hmm.
and it was the happiest year of her life. And then she left.
So you think that during that 8 year time period where you were going through what sounds like your dark night of the soul and you were
Yes.
under construction, I love that you said I was under construction. When you were under construction, do you think that your siblings felt abandoned? What do you think their perspective was of your experience, especially after coming out of that and having to take care of your mom?
I think that they thought that I was just being crazy. You know, there was some talk that, you just up and left your son. He was whatever, 19 or 20 at the time, and all this other stuff. But I knew that I was being called to higher ground. And I tell you, I'm so grateful that I learned to communicate in a way that my family was able to hear me,
Mm.
and that they were able to enjoy their mom before she left. And I think that that made her welcome home a little more easier than it was when my father died, because when my father died, it was a lot.
Mm.
It was out of control. I didn't want to be bothered with none of them. And it was like, you guys figure it out. Just call me when it's time. But again, it's really being clear about the stand that you're going to make in your life and stick with it. That's how it was for me. It's like, I know you don't like me. Listen, you can be doing great in your life and your family talk about you. You can be doing terrible in your life, your family talk about you. So let them talk. You
Mm.
know, just it's okay. I mean, your coworkers talk about you. They talked about Jesus and he was healing people. I mean, like, what are we doing here? Trying to look good?
That is so. I think when for those of us who are coaches and those who are listening who are coaches, when you get in this space and you're doing that work, figuring out how to strike that balance between affirming love for yourself and affirming love for your family, it is tough.
Yeah,
It
it is.
is it's a delicate walk. And I think Teresa, you've given some really great just examples, just using your own life as a case study of how you've managed to stand firm and affirming yourself and acknowledging where you are in your walking space while still holding a space of love for your siblings, because you could have just cut them down and
Oh,
you such and such is not showing up and I'm tired and I'm this and that, but you managed to find a way to communicate to them in love, and that empowers you to be able to provide that beautiful last year for your mom.
yeah, yeah. And I'm so grateful to them that they took it on and enjoyed it, because we had so much. We had like pajama parties. I'd still go. My sister would still come on Fridays. We'll buy mommy some drinks, and she started drinking wine after all these years. She never even drank liquor. She drank wine. She was so happy. She loved her Puerto Rican music. We used to play music for her, and oh my God, such beautiful memories. And, when we released her back to her creator, we were singing to her,
Hmm.
and then she left us. So it was beautiful. And it was a different experience than, my dad, and I think that that's when I really started to realize that it's working. As long as you take a stand, it's working. Somebody's got to take the stand.
Since you took that stand and you went to bat for your mom and got your brothers and sisters more involved in her care and being with her, and as she was getting ready to transition, how has that changed, or if has it changed the dynamic, the way you guys interacted with each other and your family?
Um, I took it upon myself to have some conversations with my family members that were willing to hear me. There's still some that don't want to hear it. I'm still that little girl that knows nothing. And I laugh because I was business owner of two stores. I had my children, raised them in great neighborhood, and even I would give myself accolades because God really took care of me to be a great parent to my children and a success story. And I don't even know how. Sometimes I'm in awe, but I realize that those relationships that are important to me are worth having a conversation. It's worth having that conversation, like, look, this is what I see. And again, the conversation has to be set a certain way. Like he was saying, Rosenberg, it's listening, it's articulating, it's, you know, asking to be heard, it's respecting the other person's thoughts in their space, and to finally say, you know what, we're going to have to agree to disagree. And let's revisit this. It doesn't all have to be done in one day or one night or 1 hour. It could be slowly, but how do you say, chipping away at
Mhm.
the Picasso, you know. But again, no one says that being in a family is easy, but it's powerful.
Mhm.
It's a powerful dynamic. And each of them reflect you back to you. And when you finally are a better person inside yourself, then everything around you is beautiful.
Mm.
They're not even going to change. But because you have changed and you see them in a different light, you don't see, nappy headed, not uh, your brother or your sister that, because sometimes we have this view of our family like, oh, there he goes again. I know he's about to da da da. That's like, and landmark is called an already always listening of someone.
Yeah.
So as soon as they walk up to you, you're like, here she comes. Now what? The big sister syndrome, the middle sister, the little sister syndrome. They all play a role in our families. Did you know that many families, the youngest, are not even available to the family anymore? The youngest have left the family dynamic because they don't want to deal with it anymore
Mhm.
because they're tired of being beaten down. My sister is the oldest, and I've had conversations to let her know I don't need you to be my big sister anymore.
Mm.
Yeah.
And I don't want it.
Yeah.
I don't need it.
Mm.
And I'm sorry if I've responded as a little sister, and I have. And I played the role with her. But I caught the game that I was playing.
Mhm.
And I figured as long as I caught the game, maybe I can help them to see their part in this game,
Mm.
you know? And that helps. It helps
Yeah.
to heal the family,
Absolutely.
you
I
know?
hear these themes of awareness and communication as you explain how you've moved through these different facets of getting to a space where you can affirm that love in your family. Just awareness and communication continues to be a theme in your sharing. And I'm just reiterating that because I don't want that to be overlooked and missed. They seem to be very key
Yeah.
components of the work when it comes to affirming this love.
Yes. Yes.
Uh, Go ahead, Ron.
I'm wondering, because my father passed a few years ago.
Sorry.
Do you find yourself still working to heal that relationship of your parents? And if so, what does that look like for you?
My mom's birthday is today.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Happy birthday, Mom.
Yeah. And my brother Daniel, who I love dearly, he's my youngest brother. He told me one day, "You are mom reincarnated." And you know what? He's right. I find myself like her a lot. Some of them are not good. Some of them are not good because my mom was short tempered and she did not play. And so that part I always have to kind of like hone back. Um, but she was a strong person. She really stood for family. She stood for God. She stood for faith. She stood for looking pretty. She always had her lipstick on.
Okay.
And I love that. In fact, in her funeral, I did her makeup. I did her hair and lipstick, which was very, my uncle was like, "Are you sure?" That morning, he was like, "I don't know if that's a good idea." And I'm like, you know what? That's what she would want. But that's who she was. So yeah, I mean, even now, and then my dad was this charlatan. He was a charlatan. He was funny all the time. He would make everything funny. My dad put up with my mom a lot. But I will say that he taught me, because I remember asking him one day, I said, "Pops, how did you put up with her?" I really couldn't see it because she was so mean to him and he was so loving. But he said to me that when you make a commitment to God, then you stick with it. And I just love that because it's all about commitment. Working out is a commitment. Loving your wife is a commitment. You know, being in a family is a commitment. We all fall short of God's glory. We all do as human beings. So why should we all look at ourselves as perfect in this relationship? We cannot. The moment that we realize that we're not, and that we do fall short of each other's grace, then maybe we can create a different family dynamic. And then we could change. Like, I know a friend of mine, who doesn't talk to her sister and hasn't talked to her sister in years. And then her son and her daughter ended up not, I don't know, had something happen, and now they're not talking. So you understand that it's generational. That anger, that unforgiveness, that's like drinking the poison and hoping somebody else dies.
Mm.
We can't do that. It just doesn't work like that. We have to let it go, because we have to face our creator one day, and he's going to be like, "Yeah, when were you perfect?" You know. So I feel like, how I look at it is, I've been so blessed in so many ways, especially now, not being successful, or whatever people call, I'm not a business owner, money's not flowing and all this other story. But I am so happy. I'm probably my happiest because I started to see that money is just a tool.
Mhm.
What matters is what happens to you in your life and in your journey, and how you get to see things that you didn't even have to pay for. You're like, how did I get here? Like, wow, this is what it looks like, releasing and allowing, So it's all about really staying commitment to taking care of your own happiness, so that that light flickers out into your family.
Mhm.
Wow.
Teresa, you explained unforgiveness as drinking poison and wanting someone else to die. I love that. How what would you say to someone who is struggling with unforgiveness in their family dynamic? How what tools can you share with them to begin to maybe pull themselves up out of that?
I would say, think of the worst thing you've ever done. And would you want somebody else to forgive you, to love you right where you're at? You know? Because we all make mistakes. We have a soul contract before we came on this earth that we agreed to. And we have to follow those soul contracts. And some of them are not very nice. But it's our soul that has to heal and has to have the experience. So I would say, let the Creator contend with them. Let the Creator contend with them. The Spirit, the soul, the Holy Spirit that brought them into the world, they have to deal with that, not you. Thank God they show you who they are. Thank
Mm.
God that you got to see it, you know? And, this is a hard one. I get it. I get it. I get it. But just pray for them. Just a little prayer. Just a small prayer. Send love and light and hope that they can see the errors of their ways before that sword comes down on them, because karma contends with those that contend with her.
Mm.
So we don't have to do nothing. But again, it's you drinking the poison, because if you're a parent and you are being a certain way about somebody and your children are watching you, you're teaching them to be that way with their stories and their relationships. It's just not pretty. At the end of the day, it's just not.
Help me out, Teresa. I'm gonna play devil's advocate a little bit
I
because we
love it.
often we often hear forgive and forget, right?
Yeah.
And I'm one of those that I think forgiveness have to be a process. You know, I don't excuse me, I don't know about just forgiving. I want to forgive for myself. I know the importance of forgiving for myself. But what happens if you have an individual that you forgive and they just do it over and over and over again without trying to repair the relationship? Because for me, I think that it's a process because you got to know that you hurt me, and then you got to know how to repair that, and then we need to work on, if we decide to have a relationship continue, then we need to know how to be in relation with each other all over again. What do you think? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, the only time that you can actually, well, first of all, forgiveness is for you. It ain't for them,
Yeah.
right? You forgiving them so you can be released.
Hmm.
Because if not, you got to see yourself as a dove in a cage trying to get out. You will never be happy that way. You will never be happy that way. So forgiveness is for you. Forgetting, no one said you had to forget. The best healing that you can do in your life is to actually be able to sit down and have dinner with that person. But that's not everyone. Some of us, some of us like want that. Like my where I'm at in my life right now is I I I have I remember in high school a girl burned my hair. She burned my hair. And by the end of the school year, she wanted to be my friend. And I was like, well, we can never be friends. But nice to, know you, Michelle, and I'm glad that you are sorry. And I could tell she was sorry. But we don't have to invite the person back into our life. We just have to acknowledge that they are a broken person. They don't mean to hurt you specifically. They just want it their way, however they got it is how they got it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think it's being able to respect, it's like saying, I want my uncle to stop being, an alcoholic, but every time I forgive him for doing something in my house, I invite him back and he does it again. Well, that has a lot to do with you and you wanting something. Again, expectations,
Yeah.
right? We always expect something.
Yeah.
But, luckily all three of us have done our work, and we still fall short of grace at times. Even in my relationship, I fall short. But, I clean it up. And I say, I do the best I can, but I am human. I am human.
So, what is as we get ready to round this conversation out, what is the gift of forgiveness?
Ooh, girl. Ugh. Grace.
Mm,
Grace. you know, and that's something that we don't allow in our families is grace. I remember recently I did something and my brother was, ooh, he was so bad and he was mad at me. And I'm like, dang, bro, man, can you give me some grace? I had never even done anything to you. And right now you got me up on the cross. I never said I was perfect. I never said I was perfect. Why are you being that way with me? You know? And that hurt me. It really hurt me because I thought, wow, it's like we have to learn how to quit being so hard on each other for things that we do in our lives. If we're human beings, we are going to fall short. Now, if I got with your husband or if I took some of your money, if I did something that's just, come on, come on. But if these are little things that happen, it just shows that I'm human like you are, then I think there should be some grace involved. Again, I can only say that when it comes to family, I think I have graduated. And I think that if I can give this um, torch to the next family, then I will do that because I'm a stand for family. The family dynamic is the most powerful energy we have in this earth.
Hmm.
And if we can all heal from each other, if we just learn how to respect each other and give grace to each other and love each other right where we're at and right where we're not at, then we can change the trajectory of our lives, because again, there's, they say, I think it was like 14 generations of DNA that we carry. We carry our ancestors, ancestors, ancestors. We carry all of those pain and DNA of all of it. We carry it with us to the next generation. If we could see us as spirits and not as this flesh, we would see so much pain inside of us.
Hmm.
I
That
love
beautiful, right?
It's
I
true.
love it. And you know what? I'm gonna add this to
Yeah.
the conversation. My brothers and sister came to visit us a few months ago. Uh, and it wasn't until then I was able to allow grace because when I found out we had a conversation, we all were suffering from the same thing, didn't feel loved, felt abandoned, all these different nuances that we think are just going on by ourselves within ourselves. But when we opened up and had a conversation, it wasn't until then to say, "Oh, wait a minute, you dealing with that too?" And "Oh, you too?" And then it's, "Oh, okay." And then you open up and realize that, hey, this is the generational thing that we need to do and we need to work on. And I think that I love the way you said we need to recognize that we're spirits, right? But we also need to recognize that we're spirits coming here to have an experience and learning to evolve our souls. And when we can understand that about each other, that's when we truly can allow grace. And that helps drop the expectations that we have around each other because a wolf is going to be a wolf. I don't care what he looked like. That's a wolf. You always tell by their actions. You just learn how to deal accordingly with the wolf. So I love the fact that you brought that out about expectations. You brought about having grace for your family members, and it is excellent because it helps things go a little bit easier to know that, hey, you know what, we do have a kinship. He's suffering, she's suffering from the same thing, affliction that I'm suffering from. And we need to get together to learn how to handle each other better and heal this for the family. Because what I've noticed is my sisters and my nephews, nieces, younger children, my children, start working on the same thing if we don't resolve it. So I totally agree with you there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I want you to leave the people with a good last word, Teresa. But before I do that, I just want to attend to a little housekeeping I see here in the chat for those of you who are joining us. If you didn't know, there is a free, I said it, free 99 PDF booklet that accompanies each night, each theme for each night this week. This is provided for free by the Masterforce International Leadership Academy. So make sure that you grab that. If you want to catch the replay of tonight and yesterday, if you missed it, you can go to the Ignite Your Soul Connection YouTube page and catch the replay. And I think that link to the free PDF booklet might be available there as well. So make sure you pick up the booklet that accompanies each night because these nuggets are very rich. They're very valuable. And so sometimes we sit in these spaces and we listen and we want to go back and do a little deeper reflection, meditate, as Teresa says, on some of these nuggets that she shared and passed along today. So I just want to make sure everyone listening, before we get to the end of this, knows that that is a free PDF booklet that accompanies each night of this amazing pouring out that the guests are doing this week. So thank you, Teresa, for sharing that. Now, before you even give us our last word, tell us, I heard you say, I wrote this book, I wrote that book. Why don't you tell us a little more about these books that you've written and tell us a little more about if folks want to engage with you, how can they do that in addition to the books that you're going to tell us about?
Sure. So the name of my book is called Homeless Mind. It's a book that was written in 2020, completed, and it's my journey. After my father passed, I felt his last breath physically, and that was the beginning of my spiritual journey. And in that book, I also talk about raising my son in a very homogenized school system, and the importance of standing with your children versus just standing for your children, because I experienced a school system that was trying to take my son from me, basically. And so all of that is written in the book. And, it talks about grief and the importance of allowing grief, but being able to ask for help in areas of our lives when we're struggling. So it also gives homage to my mom. It ends with her death, and I speak about who she was. And so it's a really great story about my upbringing and my parents. So it just really catapulted me out of this thing called depression, to realize that it really just lifted me into a whole nother, it's like when we're growing in our spiritual walk, we all have this ceiling, and it's just a glass ceiling. And when we break through it, we're ready for more. And that ceiling is there again, and we break through that one and more. So that's really what the book has done for me in my life. It's really catapulted me into a whole different way of thinking and being. And then my second book, I'm working on it now, so I won't divulge the title yet. But I just want to say, well, one of the questions I saw was, do I do men's closets? Yes, I do. I also work with men. Men are not as accessible. I don't know why. They hide in their closets. They're not as like, oh, I would love for you to come and let me, and you can help me with my fashion. But I'm available if you'd like to work with me. You can always email me at closetcoach2012@gmail. I also have a website if you're interested in doing one-on-one coaching, especially to parents who are dealing with their teens and they don't know what to do. Please reach out to me. If you just want to have a conversation, I'm okay with that. Let's just have a conversation. But you can look me up at TeresaLugo.com. So it's real simple. It's without the H. And my Instagram is the Teresa Lugo. That's where I got it confused. The Teresa Lugo is my Instagram. So please feel free to reach out to me, even if it's just for a conversation, because I'm all about standing for our children. Please understand the school is not there to help you with your children. Some are, but some aren't. So we want to make sure that our boys are safe. So feel free to call me, and our girls, of course. But pick up the book. I think the book will help you to understand why I'm bringing this up. And I think it was important that I went through it as a parent so that I could be of service to other parents.
And give the name of that book one more time and where an interested reader can find it.
So you can find my book on my website, teresalugo.com, or if you want to go on Amazon, you can find it. It's called Homeless Mind. And it really is all about rebooting your mind from everything that was taught to you to going from a clean slate. I hope to God today that you're going to erase everything you believed in with your family and your sister and your brother and the story. And oh, you just don't know my brother. You don't know what my brother did. You have no clue, my sister. Listen, trust me, I do. And we are here to give each other grace. We are here to grow up and thank them for giving us the lessons that they've given us for us to grow and be better people in this world.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Is that your last word, or do you have?
I think so. I think that it's, I can't even stress how much I feel like an infinity for families. You know, I've seen too many families walk away from each other. I've seen there's a couple of my own family have walked away, and that's okay because I love them and I still pray for them and I keep them near and dear. So we all have to just understand that we're all in this together at the end of the day. We're all carrying each other to the final destination. That's all it is. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Teresa, for sharing that last word. Mr. Manson, you look like you have something to say.
I just wanted to thank her myself and say she has been an excellent guest. I've learned so many things from you tonight. I love the way you drop so many gems for the audience to help them deal with their families and heal themselves from their families and things like that. So we look forward to hearing more books from you and seeing you do bigger things and within your own organization and also with Master Force because the community needs you. And so
Yeah.
good work.
And you know what? I do want to put a shout out to Master Force
Yeah.
Academy because I don't know what I would have done without it. And I really think Moot, and she knows I'm always edifying her because if it wasn't for her, I would not have been able to be the one carrying the torch for my family. And in with my children and my own family. I mean, I would have never. So I want to invite anybody who's interested in becoming a life coach. Look, you don't even have to be a life coach. Just take the lessons that's offered and be the coach for your family. Be that coach in your life, in your business. Just be that coach. And you will not regret it because everything that I've learned has really helped me to grow spiritually, emotionally, and I'm glad I did it. And I will never stop learning. I will never stop learning. And it's interesting because even as people, like human beings that we are, but we're really reaching for spirituality. Because one of my prayers has been, make me less flesh and more spirit, Lord. Make me less flesh and more spirit because more people need love in this world. And we can't do it in the flesh.
Mm.
We can't, trust me. We're too busy with ego and self-absorbed and all that. So that's my prayer, that. And I think part of reaching for spirituality is there's so much more that it awaits us. There's so much more that awaits us. And it's not in a church and it's not in a building. It's right here. It's in our hearts. It's the God in us. The little G.
Mm.
The little G.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Let's give Teresa Lugo a virtual round of applause. She has
Thank
been amazing
you.
and wonderful with us, pouring and sharing. And in case you thought this was over, it is not. Just tonight, just tonight. If you missed yesterday, go back and catch it. If you didn't catch all of today, you can catch the replay later. But we will be back in the same place on the same channel, talking about affirming love for the children. We're going to center the little ones, we're going to center our hearts, affirming love for the children with our master force coach, Dr. Ushas, I believe. I hope I'm saying that right. If I'm not tomorrow, Dr. Ushas, you can correct me and get me together.
I'm glad you said it because I wasn't.
All right, Mr. Manson, are we ready to close out?
Yes, we are, a lovely wife of mine. Thank you again.
Teresa.
It was a pleasure meeting both of you. I heard so many good things about you, and it's a pleasure meeting you. When Moot said that you guys were doing this, I'm like, really? Are you sure? I love her. I love the interview with her and our energy, and I love her so much. So I was kind of like, oh, but God, this was perfect. This
Oh,
was
thank you.
absolutely perfect. So pleasure meeting both of you.
Thank
Happy
you. Thank you.
birthday.
And I was the same way. I was like, really? So, but yeah.
All right,
I
everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you
Have a
very
good
much.
night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
I choose to see my family as a gift. I choose to see my family as a gift. I am thankful for having a lovely family. I am thankful for having a lovely family. I am grateful that my family accepts me as I am. I am grateful that my family accepts me as I am. I am thankful for all the members of my family. I am grateful for all the members of my family. The more love I give, the more love I receive. The more love I give, the more love I receive. My family deserves happiness. My family deserves happiness. Thank you for joining us tonight.